old cliche of, I was just doing my job, still applies when people ask me, but chief will say otherwise.
I'm just glad everybody was okay. There was nobody inside that got injured. I mean, like you were saying, it could have turned out way worse than it was, and we're just thankful that it didn't happen that way.
That could have been a very different Christmas.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Well, thank God you guys were there.
Okay, is there, he's a user?
Yeah.
Okay.
He just got out of jail today.
Okay.
He's been in jail for almost 2 months. We thought he was going to get sober, but...
One dose of Narcan? You got any more? Okay.
Yeah, I gave him a ride to Namba because he said he had to go get some money from somebody. I was going to meet him to Rockland, so I was trying to drop him off. And he said he had to use the restroom, so I stopped him to the restroom. He got out, came back, lit up a cigarette, and was just at the door. I was asking him.
Said he's a fentanyl user though, just got out of jail today.
How many Narcan did you give?
3 total doses.
You good with that?
Yeah, 3 of the 4 milligrams there.
On the bed.
Working swing shift, which is from 2 to midnight. It's the busiest time of the day. What's great about our city is that the people here, the community here is very supportive of us. We love that. We do our best to continue to have that public trust.
Headed to a traffic stop where the officers stopped the vehicle, about 4 occupants. Sounding like either 1 or 2 of them are runaways and 1 of them has a warrant. And then they also located a stolen firearm. In his waistband with that attached to it.
No holster, no nothing, just hanging out of his pants. And then he had the other one loaded in his pocket.
Check the firearm, and it is also stolen. So just a really good job by this team. You guys are out here all night, whatever weather, hot, cold, raining, snowing, just constantly grinding and keeping our streets safe. So I'm just really proud of them. It's always a good moment.
On the night of Christmas Eve, doing routine patrol, in my assigned area, I noticed a bunch of smoke near one of our gas stations where we get a lot of racing. I had assumed that it was gonna be some kids doing burnouts, so I headed towards that area. And as I got closer, I noticed the smoke was getting thicker, and that's when I observed there's a large fire between two homes on 9th Avenue. So I quickly radioed dispatch, jumped out of my car, and made contact with the first house. And I was able to get them to wake up after pounding on their door, because they were all asleep. Yeah, I'm making contact at 627 to get them out. Call police! Hey, you gotta get out of the house. It's on fire. Your house is on fire.
Really?
Yes. I tried on this side of the house too. And once they got out of the shock of my house is on fire, and came to the realization that they needed to get out, I left them to evacuate and went to the second house to try and get people out of that house as well. And that's when my partner Dwight showed up. We attempted multiple contacts to try and get people out of the second story house, but nobody was answering the door. Go out of the house! Get out of the house! Hey, we gotta see upstairs. Get out of the house! The house is on fire!
We made entry into the house and cleared it to make sure that there was nobody there. Fortunately, there was nobody inside, but it was just, we had to act swiftly and quickly to make sure there was nobody injured.
We were in the main house, and then I have two separate rooms behind the carport that he was in.
Okay. So you were the closest to the
Yeah.
fire.
I really appreciate you guys coming in and giving up your time to meet these guys. And it means a lot to me. And
Thanks for the kind words on social media.
yeah, you don't have to do that, but you did. You know, and that goes a long way.
The old cliche of I was just doing my job still applies. People ask me, but chief will say otherwise.
I'm just glad everybody was okay. There was nobody inside that got injured. I mean, like you were saying, it could have turned out way worse than it was, and we're just thankful that it didn't happen that way.
That could have been a very different Christmas.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Well, thank God you guys were there.
Okay, he's a user?
Easy? Yeah.
Okay.
He just got out of jail today.
Okay.
He's been in jail for almost 2 months. We thought he was gonna get sober, but
One dose of Narcan? You got any more? Okay.
yeah, I gave him a ride to Namba because he said he had to go get some money from somebody. I was gonna meet him at the rock down Tower trying to drop him off, and he said he had to use the restroom, so I stopped him from the restroom. He got out, picked back, lit up a cigarette, and was just at the door. I was at
Said he's a fentanyl user though, just got out of jail today.
How many Narcan did you give him?
3 total doses.
You good with that?
Yeah. 3 of the 4 milligrams there.
on the bed.
working swing shift, which is from 2 to midnight. It's the busiest time of the day. What's great about our city is that the people here, the community here is very supportive of us. We love that. We do our best to continue to have that public trust.
Headed to a traffic stop where the officers stopped the vehicle, about 4 occupants. Sounding like either 1 or 2 of them are runaways and one of them has a warrant. And then they also located a stolen firearm. In his waistband with that attached to it.
No holster, no nothing, just hanging out of his pants. And then he had the other one loaded in a pocket.
Check the firearm and it is also stolen. So just a really good job by this team. You guys are out here all night, whatever weather, hot, cold, raining, snowing, just constantly grinding and keeping our streets safe. So I'm just really proud of them. It's always a good moment.
Testing, we're good? All right. Thank you everyone for showing up. Sorry it's 5 minutes behind. I'm just trying to give everyone, be inclusive to everyone's schedules and calendars and busy days. Anyway, so here we are. Please, if you need to get up, use the restroom. Restrooms are outside here on the right. We have water back there. We have cookies. I'm really excited. I'm really excited to highlight all the amazing things that the police department has done since I've taken office a year and a half ago, and it seems like a blink from 2022. But there's a lot of things to kind of unpack. I want this to be more of a dialogue for each and every one of you to be able to ask questions, elicit feedback. I do have some, before we get into anything, a little bit of ground rules. No derogatory language, no insulting language. Don't try to pick a fight with your neighbor. Let's all be good Idahoans and be respectful of each other. I have to say that because last week someone was trying to, pick on people where the people came from, and it took away from the actual meeting and the dialogue and the good vibe that was going on. We were all gelling really well, and I want that to be part of this. So I know everyone's afraid to sit up here, but if you guys want to move to the front, that'd be cool, so I don't have to yell at you. If not, you can stay where you're at. I'm not giving you a lawful order. You do what you want to do. But I want this to be a very interactive hour or so. I have nowhere to be. I mean, my kids and wife want to see me, but I don't have anywhere to be immediately after. So we can chat. This should be a good chat for us, and should be very engaging and interactive. Before we get started, I just want to go and acknowledge the elected officials that are in the room today. We'll start off with Senator Chris Trakel in the back. Thank you, sir, for coming here. I appreciate you. We have County Commissioner Leslie Van Beek. We have, thank you, Tammy Nichols from Middleton. Thank you. We have Councilwoman Diana Register and we have Councilor Mike Dittenberg from Caldwell City Council. Did I forget anyone? Where? Oh, Manny, you're right in front of me. Manuel Godina from Caldwell School District School Board of Trustees. So thank you very much. I appreciate that. And then all my appointed officials in here, we have appointed officials from the city of Caldwell who make this thing work together. Thank you for coming. I appreciate it because I think the theme of tonight is going to be we are all in this together. Not everything is a public safety concern. It sometimes has to do with parks and rec. Sometimes it has to do with planning and zoning. Sometimes we're talking about growth. We're talking about, infrastructure and stop signs and things that I don't really do, but we have to enforce those things. So it's very nice to have our appointed officials in here. Our city clerk, Debbie Geyer, thank you, ma'am, for coming in here after your shift was over today. I also want to acknowledge my captain, Rob Rosen. He is the captain over operations of the department, so he oversees anyone in a police car and also our detective bureau. And then my adjutant, my executive officer, Dave Wright, who's been here for 38 years. He is our historian. He knows everything about the city. He's from Caldwell, born and raised. And so if I misspeak, he'll politely, correct me. So, and then, so without further ado, thank you, Char. Thank you, IT department. Thank you, Ken. Thank you, everyone. Gabby, Kaylin, all of our people who made this thing possible today. We can't do this without our team. So I want to avoid me being a talking head up here, and I want to leave it more for Q&A and dialogue. But before we get started with that, we'll go over some stats that I'll put up on the screen. Okay, so let's talk about 2023 really quick. Historically, in the city of Caldwell, this city is known for gang violence and violent crime more than anywhere else in the Treasure Valley, but probably the state of Idaho. It's safe to say that. What we've done is, and I know some of you have questions, so I might answer these questions during my little spiel. But what I really want to highlight is the fact that we've completely rebranded and re-imaged and reimagined the way that we're doing policing here, and it starts with the people that we hire, promote, and retain in this organization. We're trying to really fill the rank and file with the best and brightest people from all walks of life. We're trying to get people that are educated. We're trying to get people that may have prior law enforcement experience somewhere else, that may have moved here, but really trying to capitalize on people's strengths to provide this city the level of police service that it deserves. So I'm very happy to report that from 2022 to 2023, we saw an overall crime reduction of almost 18%. And that's huge. 18% is a lot of crime. I think specifically it's 205 fewer victims of violent crime. The question would be, how do we do that? Well, and I always say there's 1,000 different ways to reduce crime. Crime reduction can be me having a town hall with you guys, because if you're in here, you're not out there, committing a crime, being a victim of a crime, or being involved in some sort of crime. You're here, protected, we're having that. If I play football with a gang member, they're not a witness in a crime, a victim of a crime, or a suspect in a crime. That in reality is crime reduction, is crime prevention. So there's a lot of different ways we reduce crime. And so what we've done here is taken a very, very aggressive, robust, proactive approach on dealing with violent crime. Specifically, I'll call them bad actors in the community. Not everyone's bad, right? 1% of the community commits 99% of the violent crime, and we know that. So what we do is we use data. We are a data-driven police department. We didn't used to be that. We are now. We are a data-driven police department that is able to use real-time crime data and technology, and we'll talk more about that with the captain, but to surgically remove the bad actors from the community that are causing the most harm. And I can't control what happens outside the city of Caldwell, but what I can tell you is that one thing that I'll highlight as well tonight is the relationships that now we have with our outside agencies, the Canyon County Sheriff's Office, county commissioners, Nampa Police Department. All the Treasure Valley agencies are working so seamlessly together, and that really has historically never been possible in Caldwell. And it's nothing that I've done. I'm not a magician. It's just treating people with respect, dignity, and holding people accountable, internally holding people accountable. and removing the bad actors that don't need to be police officers, right? And I've said this and I'll say it again, there is no bigger critic of this police department than me. I hold ourselves to a very high standard. Little bit about me, and you can Google it and find it, but I'm a 5th generation police officer. I came from Los Angeles, California. I spent the first almost 2 decades of police service in Los Angeles, and really focusing on gang reduction, youth development, mentoring, coaching, counseling, guiding, and really problem solving, and being there for our underprivileged, underserved communities. Sometimes jail is the right thing, sometimes it's not. And so we have to identify and have that relationship with our community, and it starts in rooms like this, where we have honest dialogue and address the concerns of the community, and not paint with a broad brush, right? We are going using data, like I said. So all these things, we can't do that without our council support, without our mayor's support, without being properly funded, without being properly staffed. And, you know, culture is the biggest thing. And so what we've tried to do here for the administration is to create a police culture and an environment in the organization that people want to come to work. Now, I get it. I may upset people. I told you know, not everyone likes the boss. But what I can say is, culturally speaking, we've never had more people lined up at the door to test for positions. Our last testing process, we had 42 people that sat in this room and went through the testing process. 42 people. That's never happened here. Okay, we're creating an environment where people want to be part of this winning team. There's a buzz in Caldwell. There's a buzz everywhere on this side of the valley. And the reason why is because we work so well with our community to keep people safe. If people feel safe, they come here, they spend money. When they spend money, the city thrives. You know, and that's just basic business 101. So I understand that as working at Costco and customer service is, you know, there's a reason why these companies like Costco's and Chick-fil-A's and In-N-Out Burgers and Amazon are so successful, is because they treat their employees right. And so we try to do everything we can here internally to treat our employees right, because I know that if we retain happy cops, they're going to be productive cops, and productive cops reduce crime. You know, it's the procedural justice model. So what you're going to see right here is our Caldwell population has gone up. We are the 4th fastest growing city in the state of Idaho. We surpassed Idaho Falls. We're just under 74,000 people on paper. And that went up from 2019 dramatically, as you can see, from right here to right here. So 2019, just under 60,000 people. Now we're just under 74,000. That's huge. So the unfortunate part is we're playing catch up over a decade in staffing, in wages, in benefits, and all those other things. So this is a huge ship that is taking some time to turn. But in a year and a half, we've made, I mean, honestly, it's just unbelievable strides in every category. And you'll see the numbers. Any questions on this? Okay. Again, if you have a question, just if it's pressing, you don't want to forget it, just raise your hand and we'll address it before we move on, and then we'll open it up to everyone. Okay, so this is very important right here. So again, comparing 2022 to 2023, you've seen overall Part 1 crime reduction by almost 18%. So 959 is compared to 1164. That's huge, because that's, you know, almost 200 victims, 200 fewer victims just in the violent crime. That's 200 people less that are not aggravated, you know, not assaulted, robbed, raped, victimized in the city of Caldwell, you know. And I'm happy to say that last year we only had 1 homicide. And one homicide is still one homicide. It's very tragic. But that homicide was a drug-related, basically it was a hit. It was a drug deal gone wrong, and it was payback for someone that got ripped off. So thank you for coming, sir, ma'am. So does it affect the general population? No, it doesn't. This is a very isolated type incident. It's still a number that I don't want to, you know, I'm not happy to report about. It's still a life. But I will say that the violent crime that we have here is very targeted, very specific, very deliberate. It is not just your random, you know, people coming out and just shooting random houses and cars. And do we have that? Yeah, we do. And we're going to talk about how we leverage technology to keep Caldwell safe. and to keep the Treasure Valley safe. So this is really proud of that. Just to talk about 2024 where we're at, we're actually down 25% in 2024 compared to the last 365 days. And that's not a mistake, it's not a fluke, it's very intentional, very deliberate, and this is real clean data. So where's Ken? Ken waves at everyone. Ken Keene is a contracted crime data analyst that we are so blessed to have here. He literally gets up in the middle of the night every day, and he goes through all the reports the prior day, reads every single crime report, and then classifies them appropriately to see exactly where our crime's happening. You're going to see a map, and to put it on paper and to show exactly where we are, and compares it to the day prior, to the 3 days prior, to the 5 days prior, to the week prior, to the last 6 months, the last year, and then that's how we get all this data. So Ken, I just want to say thank you, because prior to you coming here, we didn't have anything to really go off of other than anecdotal, oh yeah, we heard there was a shooting, or we're aware of something. This is as real as you're going to get right here. And we owe it to you guys. We owe it to the community. But what does this cost money? This isn't free. This is our way of being good stewards of the taxpayer dollars to really highlight the awesome work that our men and women do every day. The positive thing, too, is we talked about 205 fewer victims. If you look at the warrant service right here, okay, that's up 28%. So what does that mean? That means our police officers are going out there and they arrested 28%, sorry, I'm in the shadow, 28% more people than they did on warrants than they did the year prior. So generally speaking, when you look at any organization and you talk about morale and productivity and motivation and engagement and all these leadership, buzzwords, well, that's the proof in the pudding. We arrested 306 people on warrants compared to 238 the year prior. Why is that? It's not because we have more people. It's because we have more people that are engaged with the community and in tune to what's actually happening in the community. And they're absolutely crushing it. One thing I want to highlight is the graffiti problem. Okay, that's a 46% increase in graffiti. Okay, so that could be an indicator that some may have a problem with the juvenile justice system. It may be just a group of kids walking around tagging things. We're looking into that. But the reality is that when these kids go out there and they commit a vandalism, they tag up a wall or tag up a tunnel or do something like that, even if we can prove it, the justice system allows for rehabilitation, correction, mentoring, all we're dealing with youth, right? And so we have an increase. We have more kids coming here from out of state that are rolling with, the homies and that are engaging in this type of stuff. The good thing is the violent crime is down. So if this is our biggest problem, a 46% increase in graffiti, that's a good thing. We're completely on it. We have resources. The amazing thing is when you guys call, we get it covered up literally right away. We're doing our best, and Julie McCoy, the director of Parks and Recs, does a phenomenal job of getting people out there. Yes, sir.
Before we leave the graffiti thing, do they have any stats showing how much of this is gang related?
We do. We do.
So what percentage would be gang related in that category?
I would say probably 75% of that. Yeah. Now, and I'll talk about gangs, because that's one of the questions. We use the term gang loosely, right? These gangs here are not like criminal street gangs in other states. They're not. These are juveniles who are trying to fit in and do something. And it's coming down to a parenting issue. It's coming down to a leadership issue. It's coming down to a resources issue. We all have to be better. We all have to be better. These are kids with guns, right, that are trying to earn their keep. And we'll talk about that, because this is not your sorry, I'll get to you. These are not your traditional Bloods and Crips or kids from the hood in South Central LA where I used to work, where they're paying tax to the Mexican mafia. They don't pay tax here. In order to rep a 13, you got to pay tax. You can't just throw a 13 around like you're cool and you've got to earn that. I can't just walk around with a badge and a gun if I didn't graduate the academy and I'm paying my dues, right? So there's politics involved. There's hierarchy. There's command structure, just like a police department. It's very, very organized. We're not seeing that here. And so I'm working with Breaking Chains Academy and the other, the other outreach groups and trying to do our very best to be inclusive with all the different organizations, with our schools, our SROs, identifying the problems before they actually become big problems, Yes, sir.
So, I used to substitute teach Valley View High School, did that for 7 years, and I saw the youth. And the resource officers we have in school, that's a good program. So my question here is, and my concern, because it's happened in my own neighborhood, how many of those gang-related crimes are felony?
Not many. And so that's the other thing, is the threshold for a felony crime versus a misdemeanor. Good question. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, so with that's kind of normal. That's trending in the right direction because it means, and so let me talk about overall and then I'll get directly to suspicious. So when people are calling the police, and I'm going to go over the calls for service, I think in the next slide, yeah. That means they trust the police, right? So when people say crime is down but calls for service are down, that's a problem because that's indicative that the community does not trust the police to call the police. I served in different communities of Los Angeles where it was way more violent, way more shootings, way more perimeters, pursuits, all kinds of really heinous things. But the calls for service were way lower than like Bel Air, right? So you're serving a different demographic. So suspicious is just that. It means people are saying, hey, there's someone parked in front of my house, there's someone walking down the street. That's indicative of the influx and growth. People walking around, and but it means people are calling the police, and I like that. I like the idea that people feel comfortable now to be able to call us because they're going to get a level of service that they may have not got before.
I've never lived in California, desire to, but I've got friends that live there.
You're not missing anything.
And I think some of the problem is the local citizens have lost confidence in law enforcement because they don't arrest anybody, get to the bottom of it. And that's a concerning issue. I don't know what your percentage of officers, the population was down there. You're in Idaho. We're pretty darn fit.
Yeah, so I mean that's a lot to unpack, and I'll say that it's not, and that's a separate issue, but there's way more than just that. Unfortunately, yeah, the people that served in the 1970s and 80s messed it up for us. They did, for my generation, because they policed a lot differently. And the people that policed 20, 30 years ago here and, up until 5 years ago here policed differently too. And guess what? Here I am doing a town hall with people that feel maybe they didn't get the level of service they deserve. That's why we're here.
I hate to say this, but people there get accustomed.
Well, yeah, I mean, when everything that the news reports is pursuits and shootings and, but that's there, right? We're here at Caldwell. We're trying to make this place better than it's ever been before. And thank you for being here and bringing those things up. Okay. Talked about that. All right, so I don't think we have the slide. So I'll just tell you. So from 2022 to 2023, Caldwell PD, so 2022, Caldwell PD handled 39,000 calls for service, up from the year before. In 2023, we handled just under 45,000 calls for service. 45,000 calls for service. We were at the Chamber of Commerce noon break luncheon today, and they gave some stats. The fire department did a presentation similar to this, and they talked about how they went out on 6,000 calls for service. That's a lot. That's a lot. But when you look at staffing and you look at the violent crime numbers, okay, the fact of the matter is this, is that just because a police officer goes out to a call for service and doesn't make an arrest, doesn't mean that they're not there for 2 hours diffusing a problem. Because we know that based on data and facts, the hardest thing for a police officer to do is to basically be a human and have to like mentor someone, counsel someone, be a brother to someone, be a sister to someone, walk them off the ledge literally, tell them to put the gun down, tell them to stop drinking, tell them to stop letting their dog defecate on their neighbor's yard. Those are really not criminal in nature. Those are quality of life issues. But what this administration under me have done is really overemphasize not just the community engagement, but the business side of being a police officer, being a human being, right? And having that empathy and support and compassion. Because the likelihood of one of us in here being robbed is very low. The likelihood of us waking up and having our children walk and see a condom on the ground is probably a little higher. Is that a crime? It's a low thing, but that's important, okay? That's important because if we don't address the little things in our society, they become big things. And so the overemphasis on the quality of life things, right? That takes time. That's a resource suck for us, is because now I'm having officers go to things that maybe they shouldn't go to just to give a better customer service, just to walk people through the process. Maybe someone's stranded at a bus bench and we don't want them to be a victim of something, so we transport them somewhere else to get them to their ride. Are we their Uber or taxi? No, but that's what we do. Because that right there, that action is crime reduction. So the level of service, that requires more patience, more determination, more all that stuff. So with that, I'll talk about staffing really quick. When I started in 2022, we had 64 people employed with the Caldwell Police Department. And right now, we were up to 79. Now we're at 72. We go up and down. But I'll tell you this, is that the people that we have working here are phenomenal people, every single one of them. And they're here because they want to be here. And so sometimes you got to cut the fat and get rid of people that really don't want to be part of the team, or that don't believe in the mission, vision, and values of the organization. Doesn't make them bad, but sometimes, when your personal mission or vision collide with the organizational or the team's values, someone's got to separate. And I say this, we're dealing with human beings. This is a human being business. We employ human beings. And so when humans get sick, we treat them with medicine, i.e. training, discipline, some sort of reprimand. When humans get cancer, sometimes you got to cut the leg off or cut the arm off to prevent the body from dying. And so when we have bad actors in this organization that don't belong here, and through a formal internal affairs process that we've identified that we cannot medicate, train, or otherwise retain to keep this place safer, they leave. It's that simple. We do not tolerate anything short of excellence. So, but it starts with us. It starts with us as leaders. It starts with our city officials, our elected officials, and the confidence and support. We've increased our budget almost $5 million in the last year and a half. We've given our employees significant raises. We're still not where we need to be, but we're there. We're at the bumper. We're in the park, right? And so when you invest in your people, the return is this. I don't get a report card, right? My report card is the absence of crime. Sir Robert Peel said in 1829, the measure of success in this industry is the absence of crime. And so when we have 205 fewer victims than we did year to date the year prior, that's success. Do I want it zero? But we'll never be there. So we talk about budgeting, we talk about recruitment, retention. Recruitment and retention is a national crisis right now in law enforcement. But I will say that happily that we have a partnership with the Ada County Sheriff's Office, and we use their academy to put our Caldwell cops through. That's historic. It's never been done before. And this is our third academy class. And that's because the relationships we have with our partners that I was talking about earlier. Super proud of that. Technology, right? Cars. Everyone now has a car assigned to them, a phone assigned to them. Those are the little things that our employees really, that they care about. So again, just like crime, when you address the little things, the big things become easy, right? And so when you address the little things that matter to our employees, employee wellness, longevity, that stuff, they come to work with a smile. They're treated fairly with equity. So, okay, so these are our top 27 crash locations. If you look at this line right here, that's Caldwell Boulevard. If you look at this line right here, that's Highway 2026. A lot of that too has to do with the construction on those roads. Again, it becomes a police problem because of whatever societal, engineering problems or whatever becomes a police problem when people crash. So we didn't have this before. prior to Ken Keen's arrival, we didn't know, we could just say, yeah, oh yeah, there's a lot of crashes on the boulevard. Oh, there's a lot of crashes because we hear the calls going out. But this is showing you exactly the top 27 crash locations combined with all the data where the collisions are occurring. So then it gives our planning and zoning and our streets department and engineers a good view of where they need to maybe adjust the traffic signals or put in stop signs or do that kind of stuff. Again, this is an all hands on deck approach. So this is kind of just an overview. This affects all of us, right? Again, the likelihood of us becoming victims of a violent crime is very minimal, but the likelihood of us becoming involved in a traffic collision is high because we all drive cars and no one's immune to that. So our job as a police department, there's 3 E's to traffic: engineering, education, and enforcement. We don't want to enforce things. We want to be able to educate people. And then sometimes we need to use data to go to the engineers and say, hey, we might want to make this road a little wider. We might want to put a stop sign here. But we can't do that unless we know where it's happening. I know it might sound archaic, but this is new for us. So in Caldwell. That's all I'm going to give you with Death by PowerPoint tonight. Let's open this up to dialogue. Great questions so far. Yes.
So first of all, I'm a social worker in the community. Oh, that's yeah.
That's dope. Elizabeth is a mental health social worker. I first of all want to say that I've been out on calls with the Caldwell Police Department in the past couple of years, kind of these crisis calls, can we commit them, can we not, et cetera. And every time your officers have been amazing to work with, very kind, very compassionate. Not the outcome we wanted to do, but we know we're following the law and where we're at. And that kind of comes to my question, especially I know there's elected officials in the room, so I'm going to highlight something. Because this is a concern. We are population, and it is, putting a strain on our systems, including our law enforcement. They're becoming mental health workers that are being called out to see if someone is statutorily self-neglecting or what have you. I wanted to see if you have any feedback on that and kind of what your approach has been with elected officials to increase the resources, whether that's at the local level, the county level, the state level, or at the national level, because all levels of government have to be involved in that. We are actually, in my estimation, in a once-in-a-generation crisis in this country with how we take care of our most vulnerable people. So.
Am I on? Good. Thank you, both of you, much. You hit the nail on the head. We are in a significant crisis in the country with mental health and homelessness and all the other issues that are plaguing society. The answer to that is, yeah, we're doing everything we can, right? We have to start with training. I'll say it, in Idaho, our officers are not nearly as trained as they need to be. And for those of you guys that don't know this, and we're trying to change this at the state level, is our police officers don't have to actually go through a police academy until, or within the first year. So in other parts of the state, you have police officers that literally get sworn in by whoever their mayor or council is, and then they're out there protecting and serving, and they never even shot a gun in their life. That's a problem. They've never gone through training, anything. But when we're talking about mental health, right, this is something that's very, very sensitive. I'll say it, I have family members in my family who suffer from mental illness that I personally had to put on hold because of signs and symptoms that I saw. But it starts with how we train our people inside these walls, because that's my sphere of influence, is these walls here, is to be more compassionate and to deliver a better, higher quality of service. So I'm glad that you've seen the positive benefits and that. Yeah, there is stuff that we're trying to do at the local level. I've been talking to Commissioner Van Beek specifically about this and how we respond. There's different models all over the country. I was shocked that when I went to a health and wellness summit in Dallas, Texas last October, 0 people from Idaho in law enforcement. The most represented state that was there. And that just shows me on the macro level of the problem that we have. People in society don't want to acknowledge it. Just like the gang stuff. We have a problem. But it starts with how we, in our homes, and we got to be more responsible and all that stuff. So The answer is yes, we're working on it. I'm trying to do everything we can to train our officers to be more compassionate and stuff. But also with that being said, let me take a quick moment to talk about critical incident management. So when you look at the last 4 years, the last 4 major incidents in the last couple of years since George Floyd, where we've had civil unrest in the country, how many of those incidents involved a suspect with a gun? Zero. But yet we've seen no more of a divide than we've had now in this country since the Civil War between police and the community that the police serve over unarmed, really run-of-the-mill suspects who either are under the influence or mentally ill. So we have to change as a police culture, not just here, but across the country. I go all over the country talking about this stuff. We have to be better. We have to be more resilient. We have to train our people better. We have to take care of our people better. But we have to destigmatize this problem. And so that's kind of my view on it. Am I going to change the way it is here? No. But at least hopefully we can use our experience, people like you, to come in and actually talk openly about it. Because, you know, I'll be honest, I had a very close family member who was a lawyer, who was a district attorney, who convinced a doctor that she was not mentally ill. And as soon as the doctor would walk out of the room, I'm like, no, you're going on a hold, because she was a master manipulator. So that's hard for me, being in that position as her close relative, and then telling the doctor, I swear, you need to put her on hold, right? She's running down the street naked. That's a problem, because people, especially with fentanyl now, we don't know really what the causation is. All we can do is treat the symptoms. But what we do is we take our time. We're very methodical. One thing that I didn't say earlier is I'm so proud at the fact that we've had, I don't know how many incidents. I mean, dozens of incidents since the last couple of years, where we've had kids suffering from mental illness. We had one, 14 years old, had a rifle to his chin at Port Arms, right here at Indian Creek Plaza, walking around wanting to commit suicide. And I can say this, if the officers would have used deadly force to protect themselves or others from serious bodily injury or death, they would have been justified. Is it the right thing to do? No, it's not. So what we do is that we train our people early on, constant messaging, training, slow down, using our crisis negotiation team, contracting or talking to social workers. Hey, who can we talk to get on the phone with this kid, or get on the phone, or show up to the scene? Command and control, supervisory oversight. They'll tell you, I'm very, very tough to work for, because my expectations of them and the sergeants are extremely high. So when we put that emphasis on our leadership at the line level to really slow things down and find different options, we use the term de-escalate, but really what it is establishing lines of communication, redeploying resources, using cover, concealment, time's on our side, right? So 0 shootings, 0. And we've had a lot of capers, instances where we've had guys with knives, we've had people with guns, we've had unarmed suspects who are telling us they're armed. In any other instance, would have been an officer-involved shooting. Not good. I'm so proud of the work these guys do. And that's something I want to highlight. So along the lines of mental illness, thank you. We'll go with Commissioner first, and then we'll go back.
Well, I do want to address that, because I have been intentional in my term in office in building relationships with law enforcement. And so I became interested in meeting with the chief, and we had a great conversation. I've created dialogue with our chief deputy, with the sheriff's office, and I've talked with Ada County, and I recognize the need for the jail facility to have some type of triage, an assessment component of that health factor. So not all people that commit crimes are really criminals. They could be off their meds. They could, that's a problem that we're looking at. I get regular emails for that. But I think having a crisis intervention, a negotiator, a person embedded, some law enforcement personnel still have to be convinced that that's the right move. They see that as an interference with their tactics. law enforcement are specially trained. I appreciate the work that they do. I love our Caldwell PD, and
Thank you.
yes, you're welcome. You have a wonderful working relationship with Nampa PD, and that we've built that relationship now with the Canyon County Sheriff's Office. So I'm going to validate your comments that never before in Canyon County has there been such a collaborative effort, and I've been pushing for the same things that the chief has, as respect and excellence in service and accountability, all of those things. So to answer your question, it's a bigger picture. There's a book put out by Pete Early called Crazy, whose son, he used to work at the national level, and his son had a mental health issue. Gene Petty, who's a judge at Canyon County, deeply involved with that. I've met with him. So are people listening? Yes, but the mental health system is deeply broken in the country.
And it starts too, I think, looking at real quick, this is going back to the Michigan State, so our state legislature, our governor is actually doing a good job in the crisis. So it is multi-factorial.
Yep.
Right.
You're using your skills for advocacy to those elected officials.
Yeah. Thank you for the great question. I'm sorry if I took too much time, but
Not at all, ma'am.
people are looking at that and trying to figure out how to do that. When we build a jail, and we will, we need a component because there are not enough beds for involuntary holds and things like that in the county. It is a problem, but great question.
Thank you.
While we're talking about mental illness, which is a big issue, not just here, but everywhere, I was amazed at the numbers I became aware of, how many people in this country are on antidepressants. It's alarming. So my question I'd like to throw out, how many of these people that we call out for law enforcement that are self-medicating themselves? I suspect a lot. If they don't have a gun, don't have a knife, don't have a weapon, I suspect they're self-medicating themselves. This is a problem we've got to deal with. And I'd like social workers, of course, to get more involved in this. Like I mentioned before, the resource officers in the schools see this at an early stage and react to it. If we don't react, we're going to lose the game.
I agree. No problem. You can thank her. That's all her.
Thank you.
Yeah, Char's our PIO.
My favorites are, if you're missing these drugs, we found them in your pants when they were from somebody. But I do appreciate it. I feel like that's been helpful too. I feel like you haven't been here very long, but I've interacted with you at so many different events and you're out there a lot, so I appreciate that. One of my questions is, during the summer, do you guys ever have opportunity to use our Caldwell schools to practice what you would do if there was an event at any of the schools? Have we had any active training with the Caldwell Police in any of our actual school buildings, or is it all just on paper, here's what we would do?
That's a good question. No, so this is the type of job that is obviously a very dangerous job, right? There can never be enough training. That's one thing that I made a commitment to when I took over was mass shootings, prevention of mass shootings and response to active shooters and stuff like that. I was a active shooter instructor pretty much for the last 15 years of my career, and involved in some of the biggest national mass shooting incident debriefs, after actions. So firsthand experience responding to active shooters, that's a huge thing here. And so yes, we have trained, SROs have to go through specific training, get certified with that stuff, but all of our personnel go through active shooter training. Now, as far as actually using the schools during the summer, I can't say that since I've been here that we've physically used a school to do that. We try to change it up. You know, the narrative is it's going to happen at a school, but an active shooter by definition is someone has a fortified position, countless victims, access to victims, unrestricted access to victims, and has firearms. So it could be anywhere. You know, it could be churches, hospitals. So we try to change it up and really, use different facilities. But yes, the answer is yes. We can never get enough though. So we're constantly training. Now the big thing too is knife attacks. So what we're seeing in the world is people are using less guns and they're using more knives because knives are silent. They can go into something and they can do a lot more damage with a knife fast. that's becoming more popular. So we're constantly assessing what's going on, reading the current events, if you will, in the world, and seeing how we can make this place better and more safe. But you know what, though? It starts with relationships. And we have to have those relationships with our churches and our schools and our hospitals. And I sit on several boards across the valley, the Boys and Girls Club I sit on, and some hospital boards. And, you know, they need this stuff too, right? Anywhere we have a vulnerable population needs help. And that's my commitment to our community, is our most vulnerable, you know, retirement homes, convalescent hospitals type. You know, we had one where a guy down in Watts was in a wheelchair and was wheeling around the convalescent hospital with a shotgun, just shooting people. You know, we never trained for that. It happened. And so it can happen anywhere. I know it's a long-winded answer, but yes, we're on it. But with that being said, I'll be honest, you know, we can't deploy the resources we're deploying in the field if we're constantly training. So this is a very proud moment for us as a department, is we completely changed our patrol schedule and the way we deploy resources, because training is the most important part to our profession. Training, training, training. So when I took over, we were on 12-hour shifts, and I'll just say we as in patrol. Patrol was on 2 12-hour shifts a day, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. and 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. Working 5 days, 6 days, 7 days with overtime, going to court during the day. Not sustainable. They're training literally 12 hours every 2 years here. It's criminal. It's absolutely criminal. So what we've done is we've tried to bolster up our and redeploy resources and by creating a professional standards unit, which is IA, and training and dedicating a lieutenant, a sergeant, and an officer full-time to training, which they never had here. Full-time, and it's more than a full-time job for these guys. And then doing 4 patrol teams, or 3 throughout the day, 2 sides of the week, where every Wednesday the entire department is working. So on Wednesdays, it's literally a full house in here. One side of the week trains, the other side handles the field. So every other week, our guys and gals are getting on the job, mandated training, new training, leadership training, developing, all that stuff. They've never seen that. So at first, the people were pretty apprehensive about that, because they're like, well, I'm going to give up my weekends, and, you know, right? We're dealing with humans, so humans are accustomed to a certain way of life, even though it's hurting them. And then me saying, as the dad, saying, sorry guys, I got to take the Xbox away for a little bit and put you over here and let you play with the Nintendo, right? Or the PlayStation. It's a new thing. There's 2 things that cops hate, guys: change and the way things are, right? So, yes, we're proud of that. They love the training. Tomorrow's a training day. It's a Wednesday. So half the department will be in here, probably in this room. Half will be out in the field. And that's my way of saying, steward of the taxpayer dollars. We increased our budget from so the training budget here at Caldwell PD prior to the last fiscal year was $67,000 for 100 employees. Criminal. We've increased it to $270,000, and it's still not enough. So sorry, Councilor Register and Councilor Dittenberg. We're going to ask for more. But we owe it to our community, you know. Yes, sir. I'll get to you. Okay, we'll go to her first. Thank you. Or Manny, did you have your hand raised, ma'am? Okay. I don't want to. I was trying to see it through Joe's body.
All right. So my name is Simona Tovar. I emailed you a couple questions.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I don't know if you want to go read them, right, or I can.
Yeah, go for it.
So one of my questions was, so I know you have a gang unit, right?
We do.
Yeah, and I wanted to know, like, how important is it to you that your office, not just your officers, but just like anybody that can go to schools and talk about gangs and drugs? Because back in my day, I remember the crime dog McGruff. Yep. I remember the DARE program. He was so cool. He used to always be posted up at 7-Eleven. But so that was something that I remember. And now, you know, I got kids, and they never knew or even talk about like gangs or drugs, or there's this cool dog that talks about don't do drugs, you know, or this DARE program. So my question is, so you have your gang unit. What resources do they have for these youngsters to help them to not go down that gang road?
Very good question. Thank you. And thank you for coming in and emailing. And I think you were the first person that asked the question, so thank you. That's a huge question. So yes, it's a priority for me. So when I took over, the biggest concern in the community was gang violence, gang violence, gang violence. We're seeing a amazing trend. It's going down based on the numbers. You know, we had one house just down the street on Freeport, 7 drive-by shootings at one house. That's unacceptable, right? So how can we remedy that situation? So by creating this gang unit. Now, there was a gang unit here before, but again, and I wasn't here, so this is just based on what I've been told from the community, from officers working in that unit, from judges, lawyers, other police departments, is they policed a little differently, you know, and it's not the right way. And so what we've done is we've inserted new leadership into that unit. We have a lot of control over their mission through our crime data that Ken has put up there, direct oversight from our captain down to the lieutenant, and I see every 6 a.m. I get a report, and 10 o'clock 10 p.m. I get a report, and 6 p.m. I get a report from the 3 shifts, and then the gang unit sends all the command staff a report. So I literally have my eyes on everything they're doing every day, 7 days a week. So part of that is putting the right people in the right place, right? Not just putting enforcers, if you will, in a unit, because not everyone, like we've said, needs to go to jail, but some people do. There are evil people in society that need to be removed from society. And so by us strategically putting our resources in positions where they can actually establish relationships with these kids, because most of them are kids, and build out those bonds that, you know, we had growing up, right? With our officers, or just, you know, a minister or a pastor or someone like that. But the problem is we have such hardworking parents in this community. It's a very active, hardworking, engaging community. So what the issue is we have parents that are out there working their butts off all day. Well, what are the kids doing, right? And I always say this: we have a national crisis in law enforcement of recruiting people, but gangs don't. Why is that? So they're looking for something bigger than themselves. I'll get to you, Counselor Register. We have a problem. So it starts, like you said, in the schools. So our officers have a phenomenal relationship with these kids. They do. And they wouldn't be in that unit if they didn't. And if I ever hear of things that are concerning to me, you know, obviously we'll do an investigation, but the people that work in there, I'm very confident that they are doing a tremendous job, working with our SROs, our schools, you know. We have a great relationship, like I said earlier, with Breaking Chains Academy and all Boys and Girls Club. I mean, I sit on their executive board of directors. So I personally see what's happening in the community. And I'm proud of that. It takes up a lot of my time, you know, and sometimes my family gets neglected a little bit, but we take that stuff personally here. And everyone we put in place takes it personally. Every time there's a shooting, a vandalism, anything that is going to cause a disruption in the quality of life of the city, we take it very personal. And they know sometimes they don't, when I call them at 2 a.m, they better have answers, because we have an obligation to be transparent. And I'll tell you, you know, I get a lot of flack. We put out a lot of press releases. Guess what? When you don't see a press release, it means nothing happened. So that's a good sign, right? It's an all hands on deck approach, you know. And what I do want to start up here is a PAL program, a police activities league. I want to start up a juvenile intervention and prevention program, but that takes resources. That takes full time. I can't just put officer anybody in those positions, because that's a very delicate, sensitive thing. You know, when I worked those units before, I had kids copping out to me that they were involved in officer-involved shootings, that they were in a car that got shot at, engaged in a shooting with the police, and they took off, coming to me as their mentor to report that. You know, so I completely understand the benefit of those relationships, but it comes back to this, and it comes back to personnel, you know. So it's a huge ship that we're trying to slowly steer in that direction. We have Elevate Academy that I have a great relationship with, that, you know, unfortunately or fortunately for us, educates most of those kids in these gangs. And, you know, I have a great relationship with the principal who is willing to start up a program. You know, we have Counselor Dittenberg, who's on the Caldwell Housing Authority. You know, we have, you know, our Farmway Village out there. These kids need love. They need love, they need attention. Unfortunately, when we as a society don't give them that, they go to gangbang. And then we, as the uniforms, have to do this and be cops. And sometimes it's too late. So just like parenting, it's no different, right? If I can teach my kids to go to bed on time, brush their teeth, tie their shoes, then I'm not gonna have to do it for them, right? So it's the same thing, but we all have to be on the same page. So, yes.
Okay, so that was the first person in Idaho to ever get convicted of the gang recruitment charge. So I was the first female, first person. So that's why I'm sitting here today, because I have knowledge of the gang and I have knowledge of what to look for. And it irritates me today, because I have 7 kids. I have 2 with disabilities, and the other 5 try to follow my footsteps, and I put a stop to that real quick, where I actually had to kick out my daughters because I wasn't dealing with that crap.
Wow.
Last year there was a drive-by at my house. I haven't been active for about 12, 13 years, and I'm still getting, you know, the consequences of being in a gang. I'm still dealing with it. What was I getting at with this? Oh, so what can we do as a community to try to help you? Because, you know, I got resources, and my resources are free. If you ever need my help or anything like that, I won't charge, because I want to try to help, you know, because now it's my kids that are on the streets. Everyone's kids here are on the streets now, you know. So, yeah, I want to know what we can do as a community to help, you know, because it's going to get bad with summer coming, and you got all these people coming out of prison who have done 20-something years. They're coming out, and 5-6 years ago, you know, I was having a hard time with, I mean, even just coming in here today.
Yeah.
Like, I feared you guys because of a lot of things that have happened to me. Not with you or a lot of you new officers. It was a lot of the old officers. So I was scared to even call or to, you know, hey, I just got jumped, or hey, you know, I got this happened over here, because of the backlash that was happening here at, you know, call the police department. But now I did come in here, and I faced one of my fears was to actually come in here and look at CPD and say, you know what, I'm not who I used to be, and I know you guys aren't what people thought you guys were 5-6 years ago, because you guys weeded out the weak, the bad. And I just want to be able to help in any way that I can, because I can speak on it, because I lived it, and I'm here. And I just want to save these kids that have, you know, like you said, their parents are always working. They have nobody. I lived on Freeport Street for almost all my life. And now I live by the hospital. I mean, I'm not too far away from there, but my dad still lives over there. And that was really important to me. So that's why me and my husband showed up tonight, is because we have some of our kids who are trying to follow our footsteps, and we are having a hard time getting help with teachers, principals, social workers, calling the welfare. This is what's going on. It's like we're getting no help from anybody. So where can we turn to? Like, what kind of resources is it out there if ain't no one's listening to us, you know? Sorry. So yeah, but just to let you know, my resources are free if you ever need that help, because I want to make a change. I really do.
Well, Simona, that's your name? Simona, thank you very much for coming here and actually trusting us to help you. Trusting us to help you in the community, because I can't tell you, I mean, this is like huge inspiration for me, right? You bring hope in a time in the United States when there is really no hope, right? Thank you. So after this, if you want, I would invite you up to my office and we can chat offline. But it starts with this. This is where we start. I can't help the system and all the different, but what I can do is listen to you, and we can talk about how we move forward. And it starts with relationships. It's all about relationships. And so the problem is we have broken relationships here. And so what I've done 7 days a week for the last year and a half is try to reestablish these lost and broken relationships, not only with you guys, but with our fellow cops around the state. And so it's tough, because I am from California, right? And I do have a different perspective on certain things. But I'll tell you right now, I'm law and order. That's what I believe in. I believe in, you know, law and order. I believe in the Bible, and I believe in our country. And so, but I also believe in human dignity, respect, compassion, relationships. And so it's very difficult. And I grew up in Mexico. So, you know, speak Spanish fluently. That's why I engage with the Hispanic community very well. We have a 36% Hispanic community in the city of Caldwell. And yeah, they've been underserved and a little bit of mistreatment. And so I want to say sorry for the mistreatment over the last, 3 decades. But what I will tell you is that we're doing everything we can to right that. But we hold people accountable. We hold the community accountable. We hold ourselves accountable. So what I will not tolerate is gangbanging. What I will not tolerate is abusive, things happening in the school, in the classrooms, at churches, in the homes, or people attacking my cops. I will also not tolerate corrupt cops. So I treat them with the same dignity and respect that they'll allow. And but it starts with having this dialogue. Thank you very much. Councilor Register, and then Manny Godina. And then Larry.
So initially I have one thing to say, but now I have something totally different to say with the first thing I was going to say. So Simona, I have worked here for a long time. Before my husband passed away, he was a police officer at Caldwell Police. And I remember your, all of that. And I think that the police department was fractured very, very badly. And one thing that really stood out for me when we were hiring a police chief and sitting on Chief Ingram's panel.
I'm gonna leave now. I'm just kidding.
You should, because when he first walked in, I thought, oh, here comes this guy from LAPD with his haircut, and he looks stupid, and all this, that, whatever. And
you're on public record.
I already told you that. But as he spoke, I realized that one of the things he was going to be able to do, in addition to the budgets and the hiring and all that kind of stuff, was repair some of those relationships that had gone so bad. And I think that's what the city needed for a very long time was like that kind of bridge, and so from a city council point of view, I'm just really glad that you're here, because I know for a very long time it would have been too hard to come here. And so I think it's very brave of you to come here and speak and put forth everything that you said, as well as volunteering to help the community. So I just wanted to say that to you. And what that ties into, kind of piggybacking on what she had said initially, I know we used to do DARE, and we used to do McGruff, because I actually had to wear the McGruff costume one time, I think with Liz, maybe, at one of the schools, and anyway. And it was taken away for whatever reason. I don't know all the ins and outs of it. Do you see the police department ever getting back into the schools in maybe, well, I know Nampa teaches a class, like their SROs actually teach at the high schools a course, like a semester course on law enforcement, street survival, whatever it is. Do you ever see yourself getting back into it? And I realize I understand about staff and money and stuff like that. And if that's a problem, then utilizing like her, or maybe some people that she knows, to kind of go in, at least do presentations or something that could be organized with the school, so that it's not just a gang unit talking to the kids, but rather a partnership? Yes. The long answer short is yes, absolutely. So that's why I've partnered up with Breaking Chains, because the thing that they lack here is structure. The thing that this organization lacked was structure. And so human beings need structure. Human beings need leadership. They need guidance. And so yes, absolutely. And that's why I'll talk to you both up in my office if you'd like, offline. And this is a great dialogue. So super happy about that. Sir. Yes, sir. Thank you for being patient. You're on deck. Yes, sir.
So first of all, I want to thank you for the outreach to the community and all the community members that are here. It really means a lot for me to be here, because I being with the school district, I like hearing a lot of this stuff. Sometimes I don't like hearing it, but it's part of the job. Yeah. So back to the working with the schools and on a critical incident or something like that. We were working with Officer Phillips before he was our employee, and we were talking about going into Caldwell High School. Maybe something happened, going into train, like there was a mass shooting, where pull in Caldwell Police, Canyon County, all the agencies, because if that happens, every agency is gonna be there, you know that, and I think everybody knows that around here. Working with the ambulance and with everybody else in the county, so I'm sure we'd be open with that. It's just not me, I'd have to talk to
Absolutely.
other members and stuff, but I would totally, working with the police department, it's something I really, you know, I like talking to you guys, and I like, backing you a lot, so,
Appreciate that.
yeah, I'd love to have a dialogue with you and the other members of the board, so.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, and to answer the question, and yes, you're right. Thank you, sir, for acknowledging everyone that showed up tonight. I'm actually sitting on a tabletop exercise with Valley View School District. I think next week I have to look at my calendar, or the week after, specifically about that, with all the partners and Canyon County paramedics and the Nampa Police Department and all the people involved. And it's just this constant dialogue we got to do. I don't have that same relationship with Caldwell. I just don't, you know. And not to get into politics, but they've been very difficult to deal with and to work with. So with that being said, the kids will not suffer. They will not suffer. And that's my commitment to anyone that's in the Caldwell School District, that we will do everything humanly possible to make sure that our kids in Caldwell School District do not suffer. But it is not, the relationship has to be both ways. So I'm glad that you're here. I wish other members of the school board were here. And, you know, without getting into the behind the scenes stuff, but that's what I get paid to deal with, is have those those personality relationships and political relationships, but our kids should never suffer. And so, yes, let's do it. Thank you for bringing that up, and I really appreciate that. Senator Trickle. Sorry, he jumped you. Just.
You kind of hit it on the head. Thank you. You kind of hit it on the head, what I was going to bring up, but I'm here. One, this is my community, but it's been brought to my attention from many constituents, and it's very concerning to me that the relationship between our local police department and our Caldwell School District is very lacking. And I've been asked, why do they hire, for example, Eric Phillips to do basically what the jobs of the SROs did? And people have been reaching out to me, and they're really worried about this relationship between Caldwell PD and the school district. I was just wondering if you could talk about why that animosity is there, or what we can do to fix it.
Great question. So I can't answer why they hired him. I mean, he was a great police officer, worked very well for us. So on that side, I mean, I can't blame them for hiring him. But as far as what I can control here as a police chief is our relentless pursuit to pursue that relationship. And I still don't know the answer. I don't know the answer as to why, or, you know, but I can tell you that I'm doing what we can to have those relationships. But, you know, there are things that are happening behind the scenes that I'm not at liberty to discuss, that I wish were different. And it is what it is at this point. But what I can tell you as your police chief here in Caldwell, that I'm a very principle-based leader. And what that means is we just try to do the right thing. We don't try to get involved in the drama and what about this, what about that. I'm not going to tell you what to wear, what not to wear. That's not my job, right? My job is to have the relationship to prevent crime, to keep everyone safe. And so, yeah, that's a dialogue that we're still in the works with, but that might be a question directed at the next board meeting with you know, a board of trustee. But as far as I'm concerned, we have 4 SROs in Caldwell School District schools. They do a phenomenal job. Nothing has changed as far as the level of service. It's just the I wouldn't say issues, but the concerns are at my level, right? It's not at the line level. It's at my level. So, which doesn't matter, because our guys and gals do a great job. And that's the most important thing, is, you know, they're providing a great service to that, you know, to the schools. Thank you. Yes, we'll go to Larry and then we'll go back to you.
I appreciate the opportunity to speak tonight. Leslie Van Beek knows me, and that's why I usually get limited to 3 minutes.
Okay, well, so we're at 8, what are we at right now? Yeah. So we're at 8:15, we'll call it. I didn't put an end date or an end time on this, a stop time, but we just want to be respectful for everyone's time.
Right, and I appreciate the time, the complete time to tell my story.
Floor is yours. Please
Thank you.
continue.
Okay, my name is Larry Stevenson. I have been a resident for Caldwell for 75 years. I have currently lived in the county on the Yoder subdivision for 48 years. After listening to my comments tonight, you might think I'm too critical of Canyon County law enforcement. But in fact, I would offer this as constructive criticism for some much needed changes the way we apprehend felons. 4 years ago, we had one family move into our subdivision of 21 homes. The owner was a convicted felon with 10 years in prison for gang activity and drug trafficking. We have not had this kind of criminal activity in 44 years of my subdivision. We now have repeated disturbing the peace, night pot smoking parties in our street by juvenile gangs. And now, our first gang shooting as of Friday night in January of 2024. I now offer a brief history of our subdivision request for law enforcement intervention. I contacted the Canyon County PA's office about 2 years ago, asking for some much needed law enforcement help. They said they would run a trash sweep on the residents to acquire drug paraphernalia or evidence. This was never accomplished, and no reporting came back to us. So from only Yoder residents' call-ins, we continually have sheriff's deputies come out and check unreported criminal activities with no arrests. In 2023, the sheriff's deputies visited our Yoder sub 10 times, making no arrests. Because, again, they show up after the accident. Too much reaction and not enough proactive. In fact, we had one officer from the sheriff's office suggest that we move. That is the wrong attitude from law enforcement. In March of 2023, I again reached out via email to the Canyon County Prosecutor's Office for assistance by law enforcement to bring these criminal activities to a stop. I mentioned that Yoder was just waiting for a drive-by shooting. I then reached out to the Caldwell County Narcotics Unit for help, which Sergeant Doug Daniels at that time headed up. No one answered the phone and never returned my message call. A law enforcement friend of mine had indicated this unit was a joke. When asked for stats, he found no felony arrests and no drug busts. Had not been documented for some time, only minor misdemeanor cases. This is not good news for Canyon County citizens' safety. For one of and our only local narcotics unit. As you can see from my own actual experiences, Canyon County law enforcement has some critical weak links. The reasons for the lack of results and arrests. Let us review these areas. Canyon County Sheriff's Office has been reacting only to residential call-ins and has not adopted a policy of stopping crime streets as Caldwell has. Our county officer is not being proactive. His people show up after the crime is over and no eyewitnesses and try to accumulate cold evidence to build a case, which can take upwards to a month from forensics back from the Boise lab. I wish Canyon County would follow Caldwell PD's leadership and implementation so their policies to improve success in apprehending criminal felons. Caldwell's PD years ago established a street crime unit that is proactive in providing stakeouts, undercover cops, and being better fighting crime. I think Canyon County Sheriff and PDs should periodically publish stats and report these numbers to mayors, city council members, and county commissioners at least annually. We saw some of that tonight. That's what we need more of. The community has a right to get transparency and unbiased stats showing, do we have less crime or more crime? Do we have less gangs or more gangs? As it pertains to felonies. I'm not that concerned with misdemeanors. Felonies is what my whole testimony tonight is about. We've got to get a handle on felonies. Caldwell Police Department is a nonpartisan position that is based on experience, education, and qualifications, and not politics. I see we have a prime example of our Caldwell Police Chief. It's not politics. This is a good thing. All law enforcement should be, in my opinion, not based on a political choice, based on a power of the party. Our county, on the other hand, elects candidates based on their political connections, not qualifications. Sheriff Donahue is the first sheriff from Idaho to be politically appointed to a national leadership role in the National Sheriff's Association, which is politically 81 years old. On the surface, this appointment appears admirable for Mr. Donahue, but it has come to a cost of Canyon County residents. Mr. Donahue has had to spend endless time away from his county law enforcement position in promoting his Man Up nonprofit and has jeopardized safety here on the
Sir, with all due respect,
yes.
this is the wrong forum for that.
Okay.
I appreciate your concerns, but I'm gonna defer you over to the county commissioners because what Sheriff Donahue does is on him, and it's taken away from what we're trying to discuss here. I appreciate it though, with all due respect, but
Fortunately, the county commissioners can't do anything with the sheriff. He's an independent elected official.
I agree, but I can just tell you as the chief of Caldwell that we are working very, very, very collaboratively with the sheriff. He has new leadership in there. We are also part of the City County Narcotics Unit Task Force, and I can tell you as an executive board member of that unit, there's a completely new direction that unit is, and again, just like my sphere of influence here, I have influence of the direction of that unit, and yeah, we'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
Unfortunately, I was told by you that wasn't going on. So.
What's that?
Collaboration with the county.
There is, it's getting better.
Okay. But it hasn't been good, has it?
Well, nothing here has been great, but
no.
Every day is a new day. So I'm very optimistic, I'll tell you that. I'm very optimistic at the direction under Chief Deputy Doug Hart, and we're working with them. So, yeah, I appreciate it. I'm just trying to be respectful for everyone's time.
Really quick, I have So I'm in District 10, but I'm surrounded by a lot of different areas, and I have a lot of constituents that have been contacting me over the last several months. I took a trip down to the border last year, and since then, there's a lot of concern on what's transpiring with the border and how that's affecting our states and our communities. So can you just maybe give some insight on that? I mean, we all know about the fentanyl issue. We know that that's a concern, the sex trafficking, the human trafficking, gang activity, criminal activity in general, but just kind of your insight and thoughts on how that's impacting us here.
Great question. Yeah, I mean, that's obviously a political thing, right? But I don't have time to go to the border. I wish I did. But yeah, absolutely. You know, a country that has open borders is going to impact our communities, you know, and it's not necessarily just, I mean, I was raised in Mexico. My parents have business in Mexico. That's who I am. Like, that's just who I am as a person. I can't control that. That's where my parents moved to when I was 1 year old. So I don't want to paint the broad brush, though. That'd be very inaccurate, inappropriate for me to do that. But what I will say is, yeah, and I'll say it, the fentanyl. That's the number one leading cause of death in this city is fentanyl. More than homicides, more than suicides, more than traffic collisions is the illegal, illicit trafficking in of fentanyl. And so thank you for your involvement in passing the mandatory minimum and Senator Trakel bill on fentanyl this year. That's huge, right? That's been lacking here. And so it starts with that, and it starts with actually bringing that to light. And we are a border state. We have Canada to the north, right? So, yes, I can't go into details about, you know, confidential investigations, but what I will tell you is that we know that there are bad actors here in the cartel, in Caldwell, that have unrestricted access to guns and dope from Mexico, from China through Mexico, from South America through Mexico, and it's problematic. We have an airport here that makes it very easily accessible to this region. So we're aware of that. We're very aware of that. We're on it. What I will say is that based on our numbers, though, right? I keep pointing this. I know they're not actually up there, but you know, we have a decrease in violent crime, and that's because we have people like Simona, and I don't know her. I've never met her before, but she's obviously taking a leadership role. That's very optimistic, and you're here speaking on behalf of your constituents. What I don't want is this to become a narrative or a division, right? We're trying to come together, and so back to like what you were saying, we're trying to unify this community, you know. And do we have a problem? Yes, we do. We do have a huge problem. But you know, again, all I can control is what is in the confines of the city, and educate our officers and educate our community and educate all of our kids. You know, I got 4 kids that are in grade school, and I'm scared because every 5th pill is you know, deadly. And you know, one thing I'll say too here is we had an officer last year who was exposed to fentanyl, powder fentanyl, and instead of running you know, a media story on, hey, an officer got exposed and almost overdosed, the media, who I have a great relationship with, it's you know, it's a very good relationship, decided to do a hit piece on how our officers and how police officers in general fake these exposures, and how it's statistically and scientifically impossible to be exposed to powder fentanyl. You know, it's completely ridiculous that if my kids are watching TV at night and they're seeing the 10 o'clock news and they see, you know, that you have some doctor in some basement in Ohio saying, oh yeah, you can stand in a wind tunnel for 3 hours and not get high. What message does that send to the community? It's completely divisive. And it undermines, and I can tell you, I went to the hospital because I know that's a narrative that certain media outlets are trying to portray. I went to the hospital. I got off an airplane, I got called, and I went straight to the hospital. And I walked into that ER room, and I looked at my cop right in the face. And I'll tell you what he said. What's up, bro? Where's my $100? Oh, he's high. People don't talk to their chief of police that way, right? And then I talked to the doctor, and the doctor revealed, yeah, he's under the influence of fentanyl. And the half-life is 4 more hours. But I'm not going to release that to the media because it's mildly interesting, right? And it's HIPAA, and it's all the other things. But if we don't talk about that problem, which comes from the southern border, mostly, we have a bigger issue on our hands. Human trafficking is huge. Huge. Okay, I ran a human trafficking task force for 5 years in South Central Los Angeles, been all over the country testifying, putting really bad people away for a long time. And Idaho is not immune to that. But when people don't acknowledge that we have an issue, that doesn't happen here. That's a problem. So thank you. Well, all I do is we prepare for what the facts. or the fact, just like an investigation. We go where the facts lead us. The facts are the facts. I'm the vice president of the Idaho Chiefs of Police Association board, and part of that, as you know, is going to the legislature and trying to pass bills that protect our communities. Sadly, people can't come to an agreement on public safety. You know, I encourage every single one of you guys to go to the legislature and watch these meetings. It's unfortunate. We have to be better. We have to be better. We got to unify ourselves to keep this place great. So, and we can talk offline too, if you want. Yes, ma'am. And then we'll go to you. Okay.
Mine's like a very different topic, but it always makes me think about driving my kids to school. So Townhall has very inconsistent school zones for driving. So some you don't slow down at all, some you slow down when the light's flashing, like Syringa, some you slow down from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. and they're long stretches. They're very inconsistent. So by Jefferson on 10th, there is no slowing down. And I had to help pick up a kid's bike and a kid that got hit as a lady was trying to turn out. Thankfully he was okay, his bike was destroyed, but I was able to help him. Have you noticed any more accidents or more things on those schools that don't have slowdowns versus one that slow down? And I know the 7 to 4 window is hard because I've been behind several police who, like, in the middle of the day are going the normal speed limit. And I'm like, even they have a hard time remembering when it's not school time that it's still 20. So I just didn't know if you've noticed on, accidents with kids or close things or in those different zones.
Great question. I'll defer to Ken if you know off the top of your head in the school zones specifically.
Tomorrow.
Okay, and we can get back to you tomorrow on that. But what I will say is that we have a 60+% increase in bicycle injuries, vehicles versus bicycles, and versus pedestrians. So that could be a contributing factor. But if anyone's going to know, he will get the actual numbers. And then thankfully we have someone from engineering. Maybe you have more data, sir, to answer that question, but maybe we can collaborate after this meeting and push that information out. I know it's been an ongoing discussion. What drives me crazy is the uncontrolled four-way stop intersections in Caldwell, right? Every time I drive through, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna get hit. They're everywhere, but that's part, we grew so fast, right, that we have to catch up. So that's why we have folks in here from other city departments. Again, we enforce laws but we can all come together with the data to come up with something that makes this place safe. Thank you, great question. Yes.
I just want to say thank you, I guess, to you and really just everyone here to come share and talk. And as a social worker, for 15 years, and I've been doing mental health for 2 years. And really, I think what it comes down to is we're humans. We're in humanity, right? I'm a human taking care of a human, right? I think what I've learned in mental health these last couple of years is people just want to be heard, right? And so we're here together to listen and hopefully grow and then go back into our homes and make the change that we want to see. And so I just want to say thank you. Thank you, everyone. But mostly thank you as well, Chief, because we live very close to one of those major accident subdivisions off of 2026, and it's only 35 miles an hour on our street. And people are treating it like it's some speedway, like Meridian, it's fast, let's just say fast. And we witnessed people go around buses that are picking up kids off of Linden, and it's been very dangerous. And so a couple weeks ago, I think now, I had reached out to you personally, and I just said, this is a huge... You're the one. I'm not. Sorry. So, that was me.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you. So I just want to say I appreciate really the work that you're doing, and he took it very seriously. And then the next day, literally, we know that there's patrols, right, that are on our street, keeping children safe and just keeping people unsafe in general, because it's a dangerous street. We're right there. But I think the biggest thing is you haven't been here a long enough time yet, but the data is showing it. where can we be in 5 years? Like, where are we gonna be if we're making movement forward? And so, I think you're right, we're a little bit behind, but hopefully we can get caught up, and hopefully with the help that you bring and that commitment to excellence, I think we'll get there. So, thank you for the work that you're doing. It's showing. We're like humans, we want it right now, but it doesn't happen right now. So,
I appreciate you.
thank you. Oh, sorry. As a veteran and a member of the Caldwell Veterans community, we also want to say thank you for all the work you're doing for us as well.
You're so welcome. Thank you. It's nice. It's always nice to hear, obviously, good comments and stuff, but I love also negative things too, you know, because we can't grow unless we see and we look, you know, in the mirror and say, how can we do better? And so I encourage the good, the bad, and the ugly. One thing that I try to live by too, and my command staff tries to live by too, is being visible, approachable, accessible, and responsive, 24/7. Sometimes you might not get the outcome that you want, but at least we do everything with fairness, dignity, respect, and we respond. One of the biggest concerns and complaints was we call the cops, they don't show up. You know, that's a problem, right? So we're doing everything we can to actually be responsive to your concerns, because it's those quality of life issues like we talked about, the little things, right? People speeding through your neighborhood. Do I have the resources to be there all day long? No, I don't. I wish I did. But we all come together and we prioritize and we execute based on the data and what we have going on and what we got to do. So, okay. Any other questions? Comments, concerns, cheap shots, low blows? No? Okay, we're going to talk really quick, and I'm sure there's going to be more questions about this. The license plate recognition camera system, LPR, it's kind of a hot ticket item in Idaho right now, but it is a complete game changer for reducing and preventing and solving violent crime in real time. I'm talking about basically cameras that are strategically placed in the community that we're monitoring, we as in just one person, this captain here who has access, and we have training in place and policies in place really to solve violent crime, either as it's happening or right after it happens. We're talking about felonies, we're talking about missing kids that really might not be a crime, right? But if you call and say, hey, my 4-year-old just went missing, and they may have gotten in a car that just left Walmart, you know, a white sedan with a red bumper. We need to be able to use technology and leverage technology to help that situation. And so this has been around we were using this down in LA 15 years ago, this technology, but it's slowly coming here, and we have a great partnership with NAMPA, like Commissioner Van Beek said, with their real-time crime center. We have, is it 32 cameras that are placed throughout the city of Caldwell. They have shot spotter technology, which means they can hear gunshots go off. We get alerts right away. Sometimes we don't get a call for service for 5 minutes, you know. I've literally seen someone get executed, and then 5 minutes later, the tone came out to dispatch police. Happened right in front of my car. Not here, but so it's a really good technology. We had one commercial robbery last year, 2023, at the very end of the year, New Year's Eve or the 30th, where 4 suspects, male Hispanic suspects, came into a jewelry store. You guys may have seen it on the news. And they used firearms to basically do a takeover robbery at 10 a.m. on this jewelry store, mom and pop jewelry store in Caldwell. This crime would have been an absolute whodunit. We had no leads. We had really no information. The victim kind of not really uncooperative, but just kind of like, hey, I don't want to really make this a bigger deal than it has to be. We take it personal. No, it is a big deal, right? This is a robbery in our city. We need to know exactly what you know. And essentially, we were able to track down, based on his statement, the type of car, just a type of car. We ended up finding out this car came up from Park City, Utah, with 4 armed suspects to do this takeover robbery. We got them on camera. Here's the car right there. So And we're able to put this together. And the suspects are all in custody with the help of the U.S. Marshal Service and our partners in Utah, Canyon County Sheriffs. Here we go. So, sorry to take your thunder, Rob. But the system is called Flock Safety. It's no different than like, you know, Ford versus Chevy or any brand. It's a brand. We get the most bang for our buck, and they're placed throughout the city. And it communicates with our brothers and sisters in Nampa, and you know, and essentially that's it in a nutshell. Any questions before I keep talking about this on this system? Are we using it to run people's license plates and you cut me off and I want to make, you know, no. How many hits a week do we get on these in the system, Rob?
We're at 1 million reads over 90 days.
1 million reads. Do we have time to go over 1 million cars? No. Yes, ma'am. Yes.
How long is that information stored, and is it an interagency type thing where it can be shared with other agencies, or does it go through like the Fusion Center, or how does that?
Good question. So if we get it, there's different parts to it. The answer is 60 days, and then it gets wiped. If we are aware of, let's say like this car, if you go back to this car, we call the Fusion Center. For anyone that doesn't know, the Fusion Center is kind of a clearinghouse. We have a representative that works at the Fusion Center, but I'm not going to lay them out right now. But basically, it's a collaborative location at Idaho State Police where information is shared, and then they disseminate that throughout the entire, basically, Mountain West region. Rocky Mountains all the way to Seattle. So we can say, hey, there was this jewelry store robbery, here's the plate, or here's the car, and then they'll put that out to law enforcement only. Does that answer your question? We're not sharing it with random people. We are giving access to other agencies to check our system, but they can't go in and like input into our system, if that makes sense. I'll talk about one really quick. The road rage shooting that happened a couple weeks ago that ended with the suspect killing himself in Nevada after he shot at Nampa police officers. Do you guys remember that? Okay. So that individual, that gang member suspect, obviously troubled man, you know, was on a mission to cause harm, probably mentally ill, right? Under the influence, I don't know. But that guy, before he did the shooting where he shot a woman in front of her child in the car, was captured on Nampa's LPRs on the boulevard, and then our LPRs, where you can see his face in the car, which puts him at the location of the crime. Not to lay my captain out, but he's at home enjoying his night. And this shooting happens within 5 minutes. By looking in his phone, he knew exactly who the suspect was. That fast. Not a whodunit. We're able to then call Nampa, piece it all together. He's a Nampa resident. We start working in collaboration with them, using their technology, our technology, but it's relationships. And then the next thing you know, now they're getting in a shootout with the suspect the next day. A warpath. But the whole point is, had we not had this, had we had it in place now and not 3 weeks ago, all we had was it was a weird car.
General description of a red car.
A red car. You know, it is a complete game, and I understand the Big Brother, you know, overreach, the sentiment of that. I get that. I totally get that. But if we don't use technology, criminals will. They already have AI. They use ChatGPT. They use all this stuff. We need to be better. We need to be smarter. We need to use, this is a huge save on taxpaying dollars. You know, canvassing, detectives going out there, crime scenes, multiple crime scenes. To say within literally 5 minutes, this guy went from this location to this location. We have him a timeline of those events. Talk about for prosecution purposes, you know, he won't be prosecuted, but you know, it all is just, it's a game changer. We have a house on Freeport, like I said, seven drive-by shootings. You know, how many shootings do we need to have for us to say, council, mayor, we need technology at this intersection to see the cars that are coming down when there's a shooting? And we look at a very narrow, specific time period. We had one really, I know you want to say something, we had one really quick in Nampa where It got reported to us because one of our police officers lives next door to, he lives in Nampa, and the next door neighbor came to him and said, hey sir, we need help with this. Our daughter just came home from school at X and Y, walk and don't walk, and she said that a black pickup truck, lifted pickup truck with a Hispanic guy with a beanie on tried to get her to get in the truck, right? At this intersection around this time. We literally pulled it up within 2 minutes. We got the plate. We did a follow-up to the location where the truck is there. I mean, the guy that's on the picture was there. Game changer. And then it validates what these kids are telling their parents. You know, so the retention piece I know is a hot ticket item. I get that, but 60 days I think is a reasonable. The system can't allow for more, like really long periods of time. It'll overload the system. So, Rob.
There's just two things I want to cover, Chief, regarding this case in particular. So what's really exciting about this technology is these criminals are smart. This isn't the first time they had done this. They actually came into Caldwell and scouted out this business 4 days before. And what they did on the day of this crime, I'm going to ask our IT staff if they could go back just 2 slides. There's one picture I want to show. Maybe 3. Okay, right here.
Can we cut the lights real quick? Sorry. Are you guys okay if we turn the lights down really quick? To show you get the night vision going? We're good?
So this is surveillance footage recovered from the crime scene of where this takeover robbery occurred. And if you'll notice, the pictures that the chief shared, this car had license plates on it. That's how it was captured from our system. But right there, you can see that the license plates have been removed.
No plates.
So a question I have to the group, and I'll take an answer from anybody. If you were a police detective, how are you going to figure out who's driving this car? Who are our suspects going to be based on this photo right here?
No.
That would be awesome, but let's work together offline on an invention.
I wish.
No, I'll take another guess. What's another guess for time purposes? What's another way we can figure out this car and its occupants?
Picture of who's driving.
Okay, we don't have that. This is what we have right
this
there.
This is literally all we have.
This is all we have. How about this? How about this? We share this photo with all the agencies in Idaho and say, this car did a robbery. We want to stop every single Hyundai Kona that's seen driving around. What does that do to the impact on community? We're talking thousands of stops. This car is a rental vehicle. It's very popular. So what this technology provided for us is the ability to identify suspects without overly impacting our community members. We were able to go right to a data source, search it, be articulate, be strategic, be narrowly focused. And in turn, we were able to stop or to not stop hundreds of potential people and contact them and question them about their whereabouts.
Wait, real quick, which does what to community trust and police legitimacy? Yeah. Why am I being stopped? Well, because you might be related in a robbery. Okay, come on. Right? Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Chief. And so we're super proud of this. This is state-of-the-art work, and the Chief mentioned earlier a data-driven approach focused on intelligence. This is what it looks like. If you can go forward to the other pictures, please, of the car taken. This is them getting off the freeway, and they made a conscious effort to come into Caldwell, then pull over and remove their license plates before committing a fairly heinous crime. But you know what? We're not going to stand for that. Yes, ma'am.
So can I ask then?
Absolutely.
Back to the picture previous, so when did you put that picture out? How many stops or how much time we stopped it take before you actually found this correct?
So I think the whole point of what the captain's trying to say is we didn't have to do that because we had technology. Had we not had this technology, we would have had to stop thousands of cars that look like that just to see who is driving and if there's any involvement.
So our detectives knew that these cameras were put in there 5 days before this robbery happened. So they went to the camera that's an off-ramp camera off 84.
Not this one, the other one.
The one with the picture of the car, and they searched manual photos looking for this silver car, and they found one with the Utah license plate. And that's the piece that linked this whole thing together. So I'm proud to say we didn't impact one community member in Caldwell off this case. We were able to go right to the source and take immediate and swift, deliberate action. And that's what I'm proud of. That's what policing in 21st century, based on intel, looks like.
I mean, I wish this was around when I first started, because I wouldn't have had to do much. I would, log in, search, and then boom, things pop up right away.
And because it's been asked and it's been brought up about, Big Brother and things like that, our policy is one of the most restrictive policies regarding this technology. We require an actual report number or case number to be associated with each search that happens. So I, as the auditor, will go through and produce a report for the chief, and if I find any discrepancies, we can easily weed it out and take corrective action, remove someone's access, and be completely transparent with the public on its use. Because we do not want to lose this technology.
And the courts have approved all this, this is all.
All legit.
Gone through them.
Yes.
How long has this technology been around?
Probably 10 years. It's new here, but it's not new in some of the eastern and western coast states.
So who will you thank for that?
Not me.
Oh, not you?
Not me.
You're gonna take credit for that?
Look, I'm just trying to bring technology and work smarter. The whole adage is working smarter, not harder. Not only did we not impact any community members except the bad guys, that's it, right? Because no one even knew about it. But we saved thousands of hours of investigative work that takes away from it. If you need to call the police, or if you need to call the police, sorry, we're working on a robbery, And so that's the whole mission behind this is to just work harder, or work smarter, not harder. Thank you, though. Question, someone? Yes.
I was just gonna, sorry, sort of really intrigued me, but, so I was just gonna ask then, so in order to access the database then, what are the requirements? I know sometimes, like, police runners, most of the time you have like a warrant, but what are the requirements for those?
So this is not a Fourth Amendment search or seizure, because essentially if we as the police stand on a corner and write down every license plate that comes through, that's part of the plain view doctrine, right? So that's it's free information. There's no expectation of privacy to be out driving around in the public, with your car and a license plate. We could staff and get the same information. It would be extremely manpower heavy, right? I mean, it'd be almost impossible, but we could get a lot of this stuff by just standing on the corner writing it down. So there's no warrant requirement, but we at CPD have instilled our own, like I said, really restrictive guidelines with an emphasis on training and auditing and transparency to ensure that this is not abused.
Sorry. Did that answer your question? Yes, ma'am.
And I'm happy to meet with you and show you. I will not search your license plate, right? Unless you provide the right report number. But no, I'm happy to sit down and go over this because I know it's new, and it seems like it's intrusive, but in reality, it's up to us to be stewards of the information and use it the right way.
And then too, we get like stolen vehicle hits. So during his council presentation, I think two council meetings ago, literally right before the meeting, our cops went out on a fresh stolen vehicle that was entered into the system, put into flock, and then they located the car and got the register owner of the car back, like that.
Yep. A family from Payette had their minivan stolen, and ended up in Caldwell. And as I'm preparing a PowerPoint for our city council, I'm sitting on my computer and it pops up. So we send the officers there, and they safely take the person into custody. They're actually able to get the family their car back same day. So pretty remarkable stuff.
Commissioner?
I just want to make a pitch. We toured Caldwell PD, Napa PD, then right along with both of them. So there are legislators here. This is, I know, being debated in your committee. We are totally for this, but we talked to Chief Falco, you're saying the same thing. Not doing some of the bills that are required to advance law enforcement, but technology will impact police in the state of Idaho, not positively. So we're very much in support of this, and we want to be partners. We'll do it whatever we can. We need to specify the right letters, whatever that looks like. But thank you for what you do. You made this presentation at the Napa Chamber lunch maybe 3 weeks ago. It was a very good presentation, and the command center over at Napa.
Class act.
Yeah, it's amazing. So it's such a great program.
Well, we appreciate the support, and yeah, there is a bill being floated through right now that, that we are opposed. The Chiefs of Police Association, the Sheriff's Association, it's a risk to public safety, you know. If we can't use and leverage technology to keep our community safe, it's not about us. Like, take us out of this. But if not us, then who? Right? If not us, then who? And that's a serious question, right? Do we want to use more taxpayer dollars to pay more, train more police officers to go out there in the community, risk their life, mess up the relationship with, you know, with already afraid community that doesn't really trust the cops because there's a robbery? Or do we want to use computer system to go in and when there's a violent crime or there's a kidnapping or something like that, or there's a possible child enticement, you know, or a girl's walking home to her house and, you know, we just got to be smarter, you know, and it is a slow moving ship, like I say, and I'm just all in with this on this thing is I am so thankful that we in Caldwell have such a phenomenal supportive council and mayor who believe in this, because they're putting their money where their mouth is, and they're supporting this, which in turn supports you guys. So, thank you. Questions? Any other questions? Anything else on Flock? So we don't get money for this. We're not like, you know, Flock reps, but it's actually really cool stuff that we can, you know, because my biggest thing is when he calls me and wakes me up at, you know, whatever, 2 a.m, my first question to him is, what does Flock show? We got a car, we got a possible plate, or we're working a lead right now. Call me when he's in custody. Without that, it's just, okay, we had shots fired, we have no leads, we have nothing, you know, game changer.
$3,000 per camera per year, which is extremely low. There's no maintenance cost to us, no install fees, no firmware updates we're responsible for.
They do everything.
And then you have servers that you store everything on, or?
It's all through them. Yeah, it's all through their cloud, exactly.
Is this Wi-Fi?
Yeah, well.
GPS and.
It's cellular.
Yeah.
The cameras use cellular data. What's that?
Can you monitor through your cell phone?
There's an app that we can use, yeah, but the requirements for the search parameters and the report numbers I mentioned still fit in that, for those search requirements for the phones.
No one is sitting watching cameras. So that, like, we don't have that capability. Nampa has a real-time crime center, so they can actually look at stuff, but we don't have that here at Caldwell. But the goal is, just so since we're on the same topic, we will be staffing that real-time crime center with a Caldwell PD employee 5 days a week. So there's real-time crime sharing. I mean, it's easy right now. We just pick up the phone and call, but if we have someone there that's wearing our uniform, that's, you know, but those are relationships we're talking about, phenomenal relationships. They didn't want to talk to me when I first got here. I don't blame them. But we've come so far that with the state police, everyone, just we're all working pretty well together. Yes.
Those cameras are already on the freeways because we provide
Yes.
those cameras through 911 funding.
Yep.
But they're also using them in toll states, and so it seems, I guess, not consistent to have those already on the freeway system and then where it's not impactful to life safety and health. If we can save people's lives and help our law enforcement and save taxpayer dollars, that seems like a pretty good argument for them as a lawmaker on why this is effective.
You would think. That's our job, right? We only get, 2 minutes of testimony, though? To unpack all this in 2 minutes is impossible. So usually by the time I get up there and we talk, it's like, I forgot what I was going to say. Just, you know, but, yes, sir.
I would like to say, at least we have 2 senators here tonight that are interested. That impresses me. Because my last email was bill to the Senate, 35 senators, I got 2 respondents. That's not good. That's a hard battle to fight. So you guys, what you're doing here, this is irrefutable evidence that this stuff solves crime.
Thank you, sir. And yes, we have very supportive Senate and representatives here, I mean, we're blessed. We are blessed to have people that speak our voice for us. That's my experience. I'm just a cop. You know, I'm not an elected official, but I will say that we have a great relationship, and it's really, and I'm glad that everyone came, elected officials, and, I sincerely appreciate it.
It's your experience law enforcement.
Well, thank you. Any other questions?
Thank you.
You're so welcome. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Please get cookies and drinks before you leave.
You're way too much.
You know,
You're new. I've been here for 12 years.
I'm trying to shake your hand.